If you've watched any videos on video game design or analysis, you've probably heard these words before, but Dark Souls is a good. But for real, the original Dark Souls is a game that didn't particularly do anything crazy new, so much as it did a lot of things very well, and its impact can definitely be seen on games today. Games built and marketed for their difficulty is a real thing now that's gained wide appeal. We've also seen the rise of the Souls-like genre, which frankly is just a twist on the Metroidvania genre. Which brings me to Smash Bros. And Dark Souls. It's more likely than you think. I honestly think a DS character has a solid chance of making it in. Both thanks to Dark Souls itself making it onto a Nintendo platform, and for the prevalent Mii costume theory implying that we'll get a new Namco rep. And hey look who makes that one. It's right there. Yeah. I feel as worthy as being a part of Smash, so let's go together and make a moveset and general character for this potential idea. To start, I'll be going with the Chosen Undead, based primarily off of Dark Souls 1, as if we were to pull from DS3, well, we'd just end up pulling from Dark Souls 1 anyway. And if we put DS2 in, well, then we'd be wrong and objectively stupid. For our default, we'll use the full Elite Knight's armor set with Crest Shield and a Astora Straight Sword, just like Oscar from the beginning of the game. The moveset itself will be mainly based on a Faith build with a bit of Pyromancy thrown in. We need a bit of Pyromancy to show the fire aspect of Dark Souls, but the Faith magic, like Lightning Spear, tend to be the most iconic of the series. I'll go over the moveset first and then explain the base character. For Jab, pretty simple, just a series of sword swings. Based on the basic attack of the game, probably a little bit faster, but that's the general idea. Forward tilt will be the strong stab attack. It'll have a bit more range and power, but have a bit more end lag and startup, similar to how it is in the actual game. Up tilt will be the fire whip. It's kind of underwhelming in Dark Souls itself, but the basic idea will be to shoot fire at your hands upward, because he kind of aims it up. Down tilt will be the kick. Initially, I was thinking that the forward tilt should be the kick, but I think down tilt works a bit better. It should do low, if any, damage and hardly any knockback, but it should do crazy shield damage, reflecting its use of guard breaks in the actual game. Dash attack? Simple, same as the one he uses in game. Forward smash could be the great sword. For reference here, we'll use the Zweihander, but it could be any big sword. Lunging forward with a two-handed strike, similar to Ganondorf or Ike. For up smash, there's not a whole lot of moves that actually attack upwards in Dark Souls, so I'll just go with the great sword swing upwards like the out of roll attack. Down smash will be the Gravelord's Swords Dance. You kind of bless the ground and then swords come up around you, but more in a kind of horizontal and only 4 at most. 2 on each side. It could also be Firestorm, but I feel like that'd be a little too similar to Mega Man's. Additionally, it could be Lightning Stake from Dark Souls 3, but if we're just pulling from Dark Souls 1, I think Gravelord's Swords Dance works best. Neutral B will be Wrath of Gods or Force or whatever. It's a big push around you that covers a good wide area, but also doesn't deal much damage. If timed correctly, it can be used to reflect projectiles and to be a good edgeguarding option. Side B will be Lightning Spear, the iconic spell of the game. Holding it down could potentially charge it further from Lightning Spear to Sunlight Spear. It would be his main and best projectile, and being the real only way to get in. I was debating switching Lightning Spear to be his neutral B, mainly just so that Kirby could use it. Additionally, I imagine Kirby would just use the default Elite Knight helmet as his entire body, similar to how he does for some of the other helmet-wearing characters. But seeing Kirby use Wrath of God, that might be funny too. How's he gonna pelvic thrust? He ain't even got a pelvis! Up B will be Homeward, or a Homeward Bone if you really don't like the Faith build idea. Bit slower to start up than other teleports, however it has more super armor on it, and additionally goes much further. It would be a way to get out of nasty situations and give him a shockingly good recovery, as you could come back from just about anywhere. Just like the real spell. Down B would be yet another parry, but it's Dark Souls. It needs a parry. And this one would work a bit differently. Rather than just punching you and hitting you for a lot of damage and knockback, It'll have a bit of super armor at the beginning, similar to the actual game, where you'll take some reduced damage in exchange for not getting your parry. Additionally, when you actually land it, you'll do the stab animation and push them down in a crumple, similar to Ridley's skewer, but probably not quite that damaging. From there, you can get a sort of follow-up, again like skewer and like the actual game. As for his aerials, which ironically will probably be the most important part of the moveset, Dark Souls doesn't really have much in the way of actual aerial anything. The only thing that absolutely needs to be the case is that his down air be the plunging attack. Falling down with your sword out and doing a lot of damage and knockback, in exchange for being very risky. Other ones could just simply be sword swings in the air, potentially using pyromancy as a back air similar to Piranha Plant, but for the most part, you can just kind of have them swing around. That's what everybody else does anyway. Just give them Ike's Nair, and that'll be top tier. The grab could use the Dark Hand, and maybe the down throw would be a sort of sucking throw that leaves them on a grounded state, kind of like snakes. And potentially one of the throws could use the backstab animation and just kick them very far away. As for taunts, well, we need Praise the Sun. Praise the Sun is built to be a taunt, and it's arguably the icon of the series. As for another one, if we live in a blessed timeline, they'll give us, well, what is it? It would be so perfect, but knowing Nintendo, that might be a little too mean-spirited of a taunt, so maybe just go for the Jump for Joy one. Although one that I personally want the most is...
Very good!
Bonus points if you can throw it off a ledge and potentially gimp somebody's recovery with it. Triple bonus points if you can do that, and instead of saying very good, it says
I'm sorry.
The basic mechanic that we're going to be going with, though, is the poise idea. Bowser already has a sort of tough guy mentality where he'll shrug off certain smaller attacks. You can actually just straight up power through jab combos with this. It's an underrated technique. And Chosen Undead would have that into a bit of a higher degree. He'd be an overall really slow character, but he'd be able to shrug off bigger hits than you would expect. He won't just be standing there and tanking smash attacks, but he'll be able to run through a lot more than you would expect. Meaning you've got to kind of play it a bit more hit and run, a bit more wait for the opponent to do the right thing and then capitalize on it. Kind of like Dark Souls PvP. You could potentially also have a weakness from his back to kind of simulate backstabs, but that might start getting a little too complicated, especially since there's one other gimmick that I feel could work. Chosen Undead would have a very high damage output, however, if they were to die, they would have to recollect their bloodstain. A green glowing bloodstain would appear on stage with the last part that he touched, and he would have to run back over and collect it. Doing so would give him maybe a defense buff, maybe that actually activates the poise. I know that's not how that works, but it could be a mechanic that could actually be used in Smash, because frankly, rests don't work like that. So you can do what you want. Also, I kind of want the poise mechanic just for the memes, because boy howdy, there would be memes. As far as a final Smash is concerned, I imagine it works similar to Simon and Richter, where they summon something that sucks you in, but this time he summons a fog wall, or a kind of column with a fog wall on it. And then it would suck you in and have you get beat up by a boss. No matter what, it would have to be some sort of boss. As far as which ones they would be, I figure it would either be Sif, Manus, or Ornstein and Smaug. Just because those are some of the most iconic bosses in the game. Additionally, like with Joker, if you kill somebody with the final smash, rather than ending in the regular format, it'll just pull up a "you died" message straight from the original Dark Souls, because frankly, I don't think there's possibly a more disrespectful thing. Victory animations could be very simple, first one being him simply resting at the bonfire. Potentially some ghosts could also fade in and out. Another one could be the simple little jump for joy or fist pump. Freeze framing on his moment of joy as a sort of post-boss excitement. Maybe have the victory achieved message pop up. And lastly, one that I would really like is the Chosen Undead looking all happy and then getting backstabbed by a Dark Phantom or something. It would represent the kind of mean nature of the game. As far as alt costumes are concerned, like most other Avatar characters, we're going to go by a bunch of different sets that you can wear throughout the game, with each one being one male and then one female. We'll start with the basic male and the Elite Knight armor set, the basic Knight set for the female character. Next we'll have a male in the Sunlight armor, basically being Solaire. A female in the Onion armor could potentially work, as a reference to Sigmeyer's daughter. I got their names mixed up. We could also potentially use the Wanderer for male and Thief for female, but these might clash with the poise mechanic, so maybe go with the Dark Souls 2 main kind of armor and the Dark Souls 3 main armor? That would also be kind of hilarious, as I'm using Dark Souls 3 to keep poise. Big think. And finally, we have Artorias armor as the male, and Syrian's armor for the female. I don't know how to pronounce that one. I like this series of different ideas because you kind of get a bunch of different characters in a way similar to Hero. It'd be kind of a free way to get Solaire, Artorias, and Kirin all playable, without actually needing to make movesets based off of them, as they're not the main characters, and it would sidestep Artorias' whole too big scenario. The stages, I feel, could either be Firelink Shrine, Anor Orlando, or Lysiel, or the Undead Parish Bridge, where you fight the Tauros demon. I'm leaning towards Firelink Shrine or Anor Orlando. Firelink Shrine could be a nice neutral stage, probably around where the bonfire is, maybe with the crow in the background, and a few other characters occasionally wandering by. Similar to how Animal Crossing will kind of randomly generate which villagers show up, you could have the depressed-ass dude, maybe Frampt, peeking around the corner, Big Hat Logan right over there, the whole gang. And Orlando, I imagine, could be a much more dynamic stage. Occasionally, Ornstein and Smaug could come in and attack the players and just be general assholes. Because, it was really fun when the last big yellow boss showed up. But this one at least would be appropriate. Additionally, I'll go over some spirits that I could see showing up. I'm going to assume that our alt costumes remain true, so I won't do characters like Artorias and Solaire, because if not, they would certainly at least have spirits. The Black Knights could be a giant Mii swordsman wearing the Black Knight armor. This time he has a high flinch threshold and is a straight stamina fight. Hellkite Drake, a giant red Charizard on Elden Bridge. It favors neutral special and has it powered up. Asylum Demon, a giant King K. Rool in the second stage of the Castle Siege. It's equipped with an Orga Club, or whatever that thing is. Guinevere, a Zelda that continually runs away in Hyrule Temple with a Girahim Assist trophy attacking you. Priscilla, a giant female Corrin wielding Death Sight that turns invisible sometimes, fought on Omega Unova League. Nito, a giant Dark Samus equipped with Death Sights and has numerous smaller Dark Samuses, Samos? Whatever. Fought on Battlefield Brimstar Depths. Seath, a giant white Charizard, fought on Omega Summit. He doesn't move much, doesn't flinch, and you take a huge amount of damage after a certain point, representing his Crystally Curse. Bed of Chaos, a Jigglypuff that runs away from you while a giant super-powered up Rob attacks you head-on regular Brimstar Depths. Just to be the most annoying thing. 4 Kings, 4 giant Mewtwo's that attack using moves like Shadow Ball and Forward Air. Occasionally the screen turns dark. Manus, a giant blue Donkey Kong. Just about everything is powered up. At a certain point, an invisible Zelda spawns and starts spamming side B. This one should be incredibly hard. And finally, Gwyn, a Mii with the Vincent head and Dragon Knight armor in the final stage of Castle Siege, wielding either a fire rod or just a beam sword. It's an HP match, and at the midpoint he takes drastic damage. And that's just about it. There's a few minor attacks that I should probably mention, stuff like the get up attack or his climbing animation or whatever. But for the most part, I hope that gives a general synopsis of what I think a Dark Souls character could be. I think it could be really cool, especially because he'd be a sort of slow, bulky rushdown that kind of forces the opponent to play on his rules, but he also has to play on their rules. I tried to give him some tools to break projectile spam while also being beatable in a way. He'd be a character that should be very difficult to play, but very rewarding to master, just like Dark Souls itself. Though hopefully my poise idea isn't quite as absolutely broken as it is in the actual game. Oh, I'm sorry, no, just throw it all away. A giant dad me costume right now.